Hi everybody, welcome to Cheap Comic Collector. This is episode number 153, and today we're going to be going through some books that I've been reading. This is Convergent Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, number 1 and 2 from 2015. And these have regular covers, but most of the issues that I have of the Convergent series have these weird I don't know what you call them. They're just weird. These weird covers. And this one's especially weird because they put Saturn Girl on the cover. And Saturn Girl is nowhere to be found in the actual story. So that's kind of odd. And then this is going to be Legion of Superheroes and versus Atomic Knights, which they unfortunately gave away inside the front cover because it's a big reveal at the end of the first issue. But, in typical DC editorial fashion, they either give stuff away on the cover or they give it away on the contents page, or basically they just ruin the story because the editors have no sense of storytelling for some reason, whoever designs this stuff. But anyway, this one's a little bit different because this is Metropolis of the Legion of Superheroes in the 30th century. So they're trapped under the dome. Superboy's there because the dome came down while he was visiting. Let's see, writer was Stuart Moore. Gus Storms was on pencils. Mark Farmer was on inks. So I enjoyed this one a little bit. It was fun to see what I consider the real Legion of Superheroes. Haven't seen them in a while. And so that was cool. But they're powerless, but at the same time, they can still fly because they have flight rings. And Colossal Boy is still giant size because he was giant size when the dome came down. So he lost his powers. He can't change size. So he's stuck at like 12 feet tall or something. So anyway, it starts out with Superboy making a speech to the citizens of Metropolis to not give up hope. They're still trying to get out of the dome and break it and figure out what's going on. And so he makes this big inspirational speech. Lightning Lass has basically crushing on him big time. And basically, Superboy's depressed. He's even, despite the fact that he's given these speeches, he doesn't really believe it, and he just, misses his folks and his dog, and so on and so forth. So, anyway, the Brainiac 5, meanwhile, has been trying to figure out what the heck's going on and break the dome and figure out how to get out of it, and yeah, so the artwork, this is pretty kind of typical of the artwork here. It's not great. It's not as bad as it could be, but it's kind of done in almost like an animation style, like a Filmation cartoon. If they had done a Legion of Superheroes cartoon, basically. So, but not really a fan of the style of the art. The story was okay. Light Lass is basically telling Superboy to grow up and grow a pair because he just feels walking around feeling sorry for himself. And then they're about to kiss, and the dome goes away. The challenge is issued. They get their powers back. They're trying to figure out a strategy of what they should be doing. And then the perimeter has been breached, and the Atomic Knights arrive on their giant dogs. And that's the end of the story. So this was the big reveal right here. And they ruined it on the inside of the front cover by just giving it away. So, yeah, That's what they did. So in issue 2, it continues. Little backstory on the Atomic Knights, kind of showing who they are, the fact that they're survivors, on a world that was basically blown up by the atomic energy and destroyed. And Superboy's wondering if he has to face a dilemma of figuring out whether he needs to kill people or not in order to have their metropolis survive. And it's actually a pretty good story. The Atomic Knights hold their own against the Legion, which is kind of crazy, but that's the way the story is written, and it kind of comes out to be a draw. And then the earthquake happens, and nobody gets destroyed, and so the Superboy and the Legion are going to help them, the survivors, over in their city before trying to figure out what's going on, and then at the end, Superboy and Lightning Lass sort of become a couple for a brief second. So, and that was the end. It was okay. Wasn't great. Like I said, I enjoyed it because it showed what I think of as the real Legion of superheroes instead of what came afterwards. And it was all right. It wasn't great. The next up we have from 1980, Spooky number 161, a tough little ghost. 50-cent cover, so this would have been right around the time I was buying the Richie Riches, probably, when I was a kid. Spooky is cheating at table tennis. And inside the front cover, we have Sad Sack defeating the enemy with Hostess fruit pies. And the classic Richie Rich TV cartoon show ad from the 80s. And then the main story is called Ghostly Games. And it's got Spooky and his girlfriend Poyle. And she gets him to enter this contest of who's the top ghost. And she puts him through some training. And then they go to the competition. And there's this big ghost is his main rival here. And there's like a one-page gag of the ghostly trio scaring a scarecrow. And then the contest begins. And the first contest is to see who can go invisible the fastest. Spooky wins, but the judge disqualifies him because his hat is still visible on top of his head. And then there's a race around the world. Everybody gets disqualified except for Spooky and the big mean ghost who cheats. And in typical Harvey fashion, it's split up into short chapters. And so this is still the same story. They're still racing around the world. They get back. The big ghost won, but he cheated, but there's no proof of that. And then the next contest, Spooky can win if he wins the next contest because it's for the most points. And so they have to basically haunt a spook-proof house. So they're supposed to haunt this house that's ghost-proof. And so Spooky tries to scare it, and the house just keeps laughing at him, and he ends up laughing so hard that it gives up, and Spooky wins. And that's it. So it's more interesting than I made it sound. But it was a fun little story. And then Poilo wants Spooky to clean the paint off this chair, so he does it by scaring it. And this one is this bug is trying to catch free rides because the ghost scares the hats off of these people, and he gets hurt. And then there's a Nightmare backup. Nightmare is a ghost horse. and she's friends with Casper. And in this story, he wants to, and maybe it's a she, I'm not sure, but he wants to do something useful. So he's trying to be useful, and he keeps messing things up and screwing stuff up. And then finds that he just being a ghost horse is good enough because he manages to scare some robbers into giving themselves up to the police. So, okay. And then we have this really badly drawn grit ad with Richie Rich in it, trying to get you to sell grit. And I've never noticed this before. As when I was a kid, as many times as I saw this ad, if you look at Richie's face, he has the exact same look and smile on every single head that he has in this ad. So, yeah, so whoever drew this was obviously copying a pose from somewhere else, and they only had apparently one head to go by because it's all exactly the same thing, with just the eyes, where the pupils in are looking at with the eyes changes a little bit, but for the most part, it's exactly the same drawing, just done over and over again. So anyway, that was that. Next up, we've got from 1972, Marvel Triple Action #1. So this was fun. It reprints 2 Fantastic Four issues. They're not consecutive issues, but they're close enough where it seems like they could have been. The only question I have with this is why they decided to call this Marvel Triple Action and then only print 2 stories in it instead of 3. Now, the triple action in this issue is supposed to be Doctor Doom, the Thing, and Silver Surfer. They even have their heads up here on the sides. But it reprints the Fantastic Four, and the Inhumans are in here as well. So it's more like, if you're counting characters, there's like, I don't know, 15. So I'm not really quite clear on why they decided to call it Marvel Triple Action. I guess just because they're action issues, there's a lot of stuff going on, maybe. But anyway, in this first story, and I don't know exactly which issues these are reprinted from. It does reference Fantastic Four number 50 in one of the panels, so it's after that. I think it's around 54 or 56, something like that, but not positive. And of course, it's written by Stan Lee, art by Jack Kirby, and inks by Jovial Joey Sinnott. And so yeah, the Thing and Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic get back from a mission. Human Torch is somewhere looking for the Inhumans, and Thing's gonna go visit his girlfriend. He's jealous already because she's not answering the phone. And Silver Surfer shows up. He tracks down Alicia as his friend. He's still studying humanity. And then the Thing shows up and decides that Silver Surfer is trying to move in on his girl, and he attacks the Silver Surfer, and there's a big battle. A big, stupid battle, because the Thing is a dumb ox. And eventually, things get worked out. Couple segues into the Human Torch and Wyatt Wingfoot searching for the Inhumans. In this first story, they find Lockjaw, and they're going to use him to try and find the rest of the Inhumans who are somehow trapped behind some kind of barrier or something. And that's pretty much it. The story with Silver Surfer gets resolved when Mr. Fantastic shows up and tries to talk some sense into the Thing. And then the second story, there was a gap of a couple issues between these 2 issues. I think, excuse me, But anyway, Sandman is escaping from prison. The wizard is helping him so that Sandman can come back later and help him escape. And meanwhile, Silver Surfer ends up in Doctor Doom's court. So Doctor Doom is trying to con the Silver Surfer into working with him and making him weapons so he can take over the world. And of course, Silver Surfer is not quite that dumb, so it doesn't quite work. But check out this Jack Kirby art, man. Fantastic. And then towards the end of the issue, it segs over into the Inhumans and, setting up future storylines. And that's pretty much it. Dr. Doom and Silver Surfer kind of fight it out. And that's all there is to it. Great, great stories. Great stuff. Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, number 508 from 1984, will be our final issue for today. And this was almost the last issue. Everything that's in this issue, except for the cover, was new. Was reprinted from Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, number 150, I think. So it starts off with a Donald Duck 10-pager where Donald's upset because he's trying to study for his exam to be a post office employee. And he's telling the kids to shut up because, they're annoying him with all their talk about junior woodchucks and medals and so on and so forth. So it's snowing. There's a blizzard. It's February. It's a Valentine's Day story. Gladstone Gander is sending a Valentine's special delivery to Daisy Duck. And when Donald gets the job, guess what he has to deliver, right? So he's making his deliveries, and when he realizes that he has to deliver this Valentine for Gladstone, he just throws it away. And then he runs across this statue with an inspiring inscription about mailmen and feels like a heel, so he tries to get it back. And he goes through all this. And so he ends up at Daisy's to tell her that he couldn't deliver it. And then, of course, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, there's Junior Woodchuck, show up with their good deed for the day because they found the Valentine, so they're delivering it. And so on and so forth. It was pretty good. It was funny. My description does not do it justice. It's Carl Barks. It's well worth reading. The next story is Little Bad Wolf, and they were reprinted from 150. So the Big Bad Wolf has a plan. He's gonna dig a tunnel in the bottom of this hollowed out tree and come up underneath the pig's house. But the mayor, and I don't know why there's a mayor since they all live in the forest, but he says that they have to move Practical Pig's house to make room for a road. And so anyway, I guess that's the end of the woods, right? So anyway, the Big Bad Wolf keeps tunneling, and they keep moving the house. So whenever he pops up, the house is still further away. So he gets confused and doesn't know what's going on. And that's basically the whole joke, is that he can't reach the house. So, and then there's a Pluto story where Pluto is watching the movies with Mickey, and it's a Run Tin Can movie. Instead of Rin Tin Tin, it's Run Tin Can, the hero dog, the wonder dog. So Pluto wants to be with him, and the actor is in town for a personal appearance. So when Pluto sees him, he thinks he's the bad guy. And so he chases him down. He calls in all the other dogs in town to to help him capture this guy, and it's a whole thing, you know. And eventually he realizes his mistake. But and then there's a little Hiawatha story, which, you know, in today's climate is not considered politically correct, and of course that's what makes it so much fun. It honestly, I enjoy these more now than I would have then, because they're so politically incorrect that now they're fun. If that makes sense. It does to me. Yeah, anyway, so there's a coyote, wildcat, bobcat, whatever you want to call it, chasing Hiawatha, and he keeps accidentally sicking it on the chief, basically. And it's just a short story. And then there's a couple of comic strip reprints in the back from Donald Duck. So no Mickey Mouse story. He just makes an appearance in the Pluto story. So that was kind of weird. But issue 150 may have been a lot thicker. So there may have been a Mickey Mouse story in that one. It's just that it had all this other stuff as well. So favorites definitely have to go with Marvel Triple Action. You know, Fantastic Four by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. You just can't go wrong. Other than that, everything else was kind of average. Walt Disney's Comics and Story reprinted a classic Carl Barks tale. You know, the Convergence series was interesting. Spooky was a little bit better than I expected, but nothing great. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I hope to see you tomorrow.